Good morning, cellists. Well, well done to get this far. We're actually beginning week 7 of isolation and or shielding. And as you know, if you've been following the previous 6 weeks, we have covered the whole of the first Bach suite. And I'd like to sort of look ahead to the next 6 weeks, which I know that many of you are having to shield for 12, so it's nice to sort of have another 6-week plan. And this time I'm going to look at a different piece of repertoire each week, probably fairly favourite items that cellists like to play, and that many of them are rather suitable for playing to family and friends at important gatherings when we can gather again. So what are we going to look at this week? Well, we're going to kind of match into where we left off. So I am going to look at another piece of Bach, but not from the suites. I'm also going to be looking at a piece in G major, and the piece we're going to be looking at is the Arioso. It is a really beautiful piece, originally for the organ and extracted rather wonderfully for the cello and accompaniment. More of that anon. The study of the week will be Feuillard again, number 33 this time. And the technique that we're going to be focusing on in that study and in the Bach are shifts, both articulate shifts and inarticulate shifts. The articulate ones are ones you just know anyway, which would be if you just move. I've just shifted from first to third. Nothing difficult about that. 1, 3, move it to a different finger, and that by moving to a different finger, that is an articulated shift, because we articulate from one finger to a different one. However, what if we were to have the same shift point, same shift pattern, but not with that fingering? Let me just demonstrate actually on a part of the Feuillard study. So what we're looking at is the same notes there but an octave higher, and rather than putting in the clean articulated shift, I'm going to demonstrate an inarticulate shift. Inarticulate being we shift from the same finger to the same finger, from it to it. So there I went 1, 1. And when it's inarticulate like that, it's quite difficult to make sure it's clean. So let's just listen. I'll try it with a gliss. You can see that because I'm sliding along the string, keeping it compressed, you potentially could hear a gliss. The idea, of course, is therefore to make sure that the left hand is swift, even if you were playing at a slow tempo. Or a fast one, to make sure that that move is quite quick. And this movement of the first finger staying on the string is actually fundamentally what we do all the time, even in an articulate shift. So even if I were to say, for example, show you an octave shift, in actual fact it's my first finger that is the powerhouse there, going from a 1 here on B to a 1 on a G and stretching out my third finger. So even hidden underneath articulate shifts, there's an inarticulate technique going on fundamentally. But in the study that we're looking at, and this sort of development of our understanding of technique, is to actually bring that right to the table and play the inarticulate shift. We've also got one coming back down. So we have going up, and then coming down. We're not going to go down the same way. I mean, you could come back down with 2 1s, like that. But in actual fact, in order to practice a different finger doing the inarticulate shift, we're going to go 4 4. So that's what an inarticulate shift is, going from one finger, the same finger, from one note to the next, whether you're going up or down. Generally speaking, you probably find you tend to be a bit slower and lag a bit, going down in pitch, possibly because we're going against gravity. And you need to keep your ear open to that, because it can easily go undetected and you think it's great until you start to listen carefully. So that's what we're going to be looking at shortly. Now, in terms of preparing technical things, I think an A major scale would be ideal for looking at that particular study, and some other ideas. So we just have straight, probably with a slurred for an octave maybe. And if you might have noticed, in that solution I used articulate shifts, which are the standard norm for the scale. So nice and simple, but why don't we combine the two ideas? So you could take this top octave from the A, and we could do it all with the first finger in order to practice inarticulate shifts. Something like that. So it's all on a one. I mean, it's obviously slightly crazy, and we wouldn't want to sort of solve an entire piece like that, very likely. But it's a really good technique, and of course, if you play the ordinary scale first, then if you play it first, I wasn't really paying attention, you can then obviously mimic yourself using the 1-1-1 fingering. Great. So there's some left-hand warm-ups. Now for bow warm-ups, simple exercises today. We're going to look at open A's with a slightly longer down than we have up. So basically the proportion of allocation of time is 5 beats on the down and 3 on the up. Now it kind of might seem like, oh dear, these are nasty numbers, but they're actually really natural proportions of time. If you imagined 4 beats in a bar, I've got those 4 beats and I'm going to tie it over to 1 beat in the next bar, and then the remaining 3 I'll come back. So we'll have that like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now the idea of this is going to be that the down bow must be the one that has the weight, and the up bow, actually I don't want to crescendo to the heel, I want to imagine a diminuendo. Let's just try that again. Now physically what's happening is we can allow a drop of the elbow on the down, so getting some arm weight in here. But on the up, imagine a slight rising, a little curvature rising of the arm, so that you're slightly more poised above the bow and can carry the weight of it back to the heel, so that it doesn't get, if I didn't do that, it could easily push into heel and I could accidentally get a sound shape out you don't want. This is bearing direct relevance to the arioso, the opening phrase. So it's a really good idea to extract that bow and pattern and understand how it feels in the arm, and this difference of like a weight and a lift and a weight and a lift. I'll show you how it looks on screen. So it's number 1 in this pair of exercises. Super. The bottom one, just see the similarities of time. So the bottom one, similarly, it's a crotchet tied over to a semiquaver, just like in the top, but then we'll have a rest and we will then come back in the same direction. There is, I have just seen a small error on that example, which I will just correct now, in case that causes a trouble. Here we are. The top line should have been another down, of course, on the second crotchet. Okay, so the second bow pattern there is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, off, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, off, 2, 3. And this, it's again a useful one because I want you to have the full beat going into a second beat, but just gently coming off. And the reason is in the study. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. they're going to be there with a nice lift at the end so that it sounds musically beautifully shaped, rather than, we don't want to land in it heavy, and neither do we want to pinch, because there isn't one written in the study. It's just a semiquaver with no lift, with no sharp lift, just a delicate gradual one. So what we have so far, we have A major for the left hand, we have inarticulate shifting for the left hand there, and we've got a couple of bow patterns, both of them quite gentle, being just very, very careful with the up bow in the first instance and with the lift in the second. So moving on to Feuillard, Feuillard number 33. The key signature, there's nothing in the key signature, but in actual fact it is in A major, it's just that he's put all the accidentals within the piece itself. And we open with a fragment of the A major scale, as I demonstrated earlier, with the inarticulate shift. Now within there, we've got some repeating patterns, and we're just rotating the left arm as we go across the strings. So that in actual fact, of the 4 bars, the first one's the most difficult, and that's the one with those inarticulate shifts 1 1 4 4. The second bar, the astute of you might notice that I didn't quite play what was written. Can you tell what it was? You can get it right. So bars 3 and 4 are an identical pattern. And they're just like little scales. Articulate shifts, very nice and clean and easy. Just remembering rotation. Bar 2, I'll let you know. I think I played a D sharp on the way up, but I made sure it was a D natural on the way down. So it's not quite the same shape as bars 3 and 4. It's B minor. I think I started B major. So again, to recap, we've got first bar tricky, inarticulate shifts. Bars 2, 3 and 4 is a very, very similar pattern, and rotation across the strings, articulate shifts, and we're being a bit careful with the bow so that we arrive and lift. Play it as if it is playful, as if it's a pretty little piece of music. It kind of reminds me of Mozart's Magic Flute, Papageno, something like that. So enjoy that small fragment, adding in those little attentions to detail. Now, let's have a look at the very first phrase of the Arioso. Now, this you need to think in a quaver beat. Definitely don't be in a rush. And making sure that we hold the length of the note. Now, we've done the bow preparation for this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And here it is. We've also got a combination of factors here. We've got another inarticulate shift at the opening. So we begin on a B. So what we have so far is the bow pattern that I've shown you, a little inarticulate shift here, and then a nice string crossing from a 4 to a 1. Now it's a 5th across the string, extremely awkward to get that 1 in place, but help yourself by raising the elbow a little bit as you rotate and come across the string there. And we're looking for as smooth a transition as possible. Fairly flat bow hair will help you there, and really use your ear. You might think you've heard the right thing, but careful, really listen to it. So here it is again, and I'll proceed to the next part of the phrase. So what we had there, coming into the next phrase, in the octave leap, you really do need to stretch and reach this G, top G, at this, ideally that you cross over holding both G's. You probably could say to me, no, my hand, I can't reach that. And I challenge you, I think you probably can. way back in the previous weeks we looked at a G major arpeggio standard. Now the top two notes in that G major arpeggio, D to a G with the same stretch. If I just move my first finger across the string, it's the same stretch. You typically will find it easier if you start with the top note. So put your fourth finger on the G in fourth position, keeping nice and relaxed. I've got no stretch involved here yet. And then leaving the three fingers very comfortable, relaxed on these notes, F, F sharp and G. First finger, if you straight point it up to the ceiling, so you've got a nice straight finger, then point it rather rudely to your face, point at yourself. And keeping it straight, put it down. And you should find you're pretty much on where we need to be. I just need a tiny bit more raise of the arm. And I can reach it. And that from this direction, with a comfortable upper note and hand shape, stretching out the first finger, you'll find you've got it. If you have really, really tiny hands or excessively large stop on your cello, it's possible that you'll need a tiny bit of pivotal rotation. Fraction. It should only be a fraction. I think you'll be very, very close on it. And just to understand, the difficulty tends to be that when you rise up to it, you will try be keeping your first finger curved. And if I try to do that, keeping it curved, you can see some very uncomfortable looking shapes here in the hand. It's quite uncomfortable and there's no way I'm going to reach it. Trying to keep my finger curved, I must straighten that finger. I can actually go too far if I really wanted to. And the difficulty seems to be in the brain understanding how to do that. So that if I took it in slow motion, it would be I'm on a first finger, I pivot, sort of turning my elbow towards the floor, I straighten the finger and reach out, and I will have it. Clever, huh? So just to recap, we had then back a nice clean shift to first position. At this point, remembering to raise your upper arm and open, leading with the elbow to get a swift move back into first position. Then we're going up to a harmonic. Just a tiny bit of an arpeggio in there, where I've gone into a third position with a stretch on this F sharp. So coming back to first again. And just thinking about sound shapes there, at the end of that second full bar, we have a crescendo into the next resolution bar. That B being the major third of that key chord of G. Quite commonly in this era, and the kind of way good performance practice would be to embellish that, so that we might have a trill. Something like that. More commonly, I would say that embellishment would be kept for the repeat. So you play it plain, and then you can embellish on the repeat, which we will come to in due course. So that's all we have for today's lesson, but just to recap that first initial phrase, keeping nice and calm, trying not to have bulges where we don't want them. And you might just also observe, really good full use of the bow. It is the breath for the cello. Make it your breath. Be open with it. And that last one, a nice fast bow on the arrival note. I've got a flat bow here at the end. Still being careful, even though I've not got very much bow left for that final G. And by keeping my finger down but lifting the bow, probably can't hear it but I can, the G continues to resonate, and it's lovely. It just sort of fills that following gap, and we'll come up with a magical entry on the next phrase tomorrow. Enjoy it. Bye.